in explaining it in this way, hope, where the kids have a hope that they can have a career and make money, and actually, their children or whatever will do better, is something that's tremendous, and that really reached the kids because they had no hope.
Buy my novel, Escape from the Village, from major booksellers online. Go to escapevillage.com. Subscribe to the Substack. Go to fountainheadforum.substack.com. Support the forum. Go to buymeacoffee.com/fountainheadforum. Thank you. Welcome to the party, pal. This is Fountainhead Forum 400. It's the 100th edition of the Javier Milei Show. And who better to have on this than Skot Sheller, who is back for the sixth time. First person who's been here 6 times. Hardly anybody in the USA knows more about Milei than this guy, who's married to a lovely lady from that country, and her parents know Milei. So, by the way, I decided to wear after hearing about the Tim Pool shooting, I'm going to wear this for one show to show my support for Tim Pool. I agree it looks silly, but we'll do it once. How are you, Scott?
I'm really good, man. I'm happy to be here. Honored to be on your 400th show. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we're 11 days away from Christmas. And have you had the good fortune have you been in Argentina at Christmas time or not?
We have plane tickets to go, so I'm excited. Unless there's something last second that happens, I'm hoping to go for Christmas and New Year's.
I bet they know how to do Christmas now there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah, they do. It's a party. It's like their 4th of July.
Well, it's also warmer weather too. Yes. So
New Year's is a long time in Argentina.
And as we're starting, the new deputies are sworn in, the senators are sworn in, Congress is in session, and I commented, just when you think you got Javier Milei down, he gets back up and is tougher than ever. And this is
relentless.
It's been a little bit of a roller coaster, but things are better now than they ever have been, and it really looks good for Argentina for the next 2 years, right, Scott?
I think so. I must start out with, I'm wearing people in Argentina will know, but I'm wearing a La Plata Estudiantes La Plata jersey.
Yes.
And first of all, my sister-in-law played volleyball for them. It's a soccer club, but they do a bunch of other sports. And it's in La Plata where Bernarda was born. I've been to the stadium, and my sister-in-law gave me this jersey. But what's cool about La Plata Estudiantes is they're starting to get more commercialized. They just accepted a sponsorship for Mercado Libre, free market.
Free market, yes.
Yeah, and so they're Milei is trying to start to almost privatize them or make them more commercialized, more funded. So Estudiantes is starting to do that, and which is cool because they were like my favorite team, and they also just won like an in-season tournament in Argentina. And all the lefties like are against this, of course, because the teams are like publicly owned. They're not privately owned. They're publicly owned by the town or whatever. And Milei is trying to privatize them or allow them to be privatized. And La Plata seems to be doing something a little different than the other ones. And so the lefties are all pissed off about it, of course, as they would be. And Mercado Libre is one of their owner is a big supporter of Milei. So there's just a lot of dynamics going on with this.
Yes. Yes, soccer clubs. Also recently there's this news story in Reuters. Somebody said on December 8th, somebody gathered 2,000 or maybe 3,000 golden retrievers in a park in Buenos Aires, and it was apparently meant to be the largest gathering of golden retrievers in one place at a time. I just love this. I do get the impression that they love their dogs in this country, don't they, Scott?
They do, and they're just such passionate people. Yeah. They're so lively people. They're much healthier than Americans, and they're just much more active, much more willing to go outside. obviously the weather is pretty good. When I was in Rosario or anytime in Argentina, like I went to Rosario on a holiday,
Yeah.
and there was tens of thousands of people in the park, just outside, just relaxing, skateboarding, fishing, talking, dancing. It was it was it was such a beautiful sight that you just don't
Yeah.
see in the United States, and it was such a beautiful day. And everybody talks bad about Rosario, but I couldn't have gotten a better impression from that city. It was so beautiful, and I just love to see all the people out there enjoying their time, relaxing. And that's how Argentinians are. They love their free time. They love to drink mate and relax and talk with their friends. So they have a slower pace of life. Sometimes they really know how to relax and have a good time. Sometimes I think Americans should learn from them in that regard, and we should sometimes relax.
I think so too, Scott. I wouldn't be covering this so much if I didn't have more faith in them than I do in us, and I do.
In regards to the next 2 years, I very good. And you could Argentina just entered the debt markets again, which is very important because essentially this election really points to the fact that Milei will get reelected. So it's Argentina can enter the debt markets. They can have a 4-year bond, and people are reasonably satisfied that Milei will get reelected. And Milei is so fiscally prudent that they expect that they're going to get their money back and won't get defaulted on. So they raised a lot of money, over $1 billion, and through the debt markets. And the first time they've done this since maybe Macri, before his administration went south. So that's a really good sign for Argentina. Makes them more solvent. Should be a little bit less chaos with the peso coming up now that they've got this. They can access the debt markets, and they can hopefully pay off their renew all their debt. So they won't have all the threats of default like they've had in the last 6 months. So you're right. It is looking up for Argentina.
Yeah, maybe they could just pay it off completely and not borrow any more money again. Just let it go. I mean,
Well, they have $140 billion in external debt, and they
oh
only have
wow,
$40 billion. They only have $40 billion, so or 4 billion of current foreign currency. So it's probably they won't be able to pay it off. They'll be able to make it smaller and grow their economy. So in 4 years, their economy could grow substantially, and it'll be even easier to pay off the debt. If that's the case, the debt to GDP will keep declining. And they have been paying off some of the debt. So they actually have been paying off as it amortizes the principal. So it hasn't been totally renewing the debt, but this gives them another option that every other country does in the world, but Argentina wasn't allowed to do, and gives Milei a lot more flexibility with what he can do as president. So it's good.
yeah. About 2 months ago it was around 1480. You get $1 for that many pesos, and now you only get 1430, about 1439. So
Yeah, and when the
yeah,
United States bought it too, it was like
yeah.
1580 or something. It was almost
Oh
1600.
yeah,
So the United
yes.
States made a lot of money on it, and they can sell those pesos whenever they want. I think they might have sold some already. So the United States actually came out handsomely in this when they bought the Argentina pesos and did the swap.
Yeah.
So it was sort of good for both sides, and not that uncommon to do these swaps for the U.S. and China and some of these other countries.
Well, the way
But
currencies
we can
get,
get into that.
yeah, the way currencies get moved around, and I don't know if they're actually taking 2 truckloads of money, but it's probably more electronic. But yeah, It's kind of funny how that goes. It's a Yeah, and Trump seems to like Milei. I don't know I don't know what Milei thinks of him. I think I
He's
like
always loved Trump. The right wing in Argentina loves Trump, so they they've always just loved Trump. And people in the United States, and we're talking not just the right, the libertarians in Argentina all love Trump.
yeah,
So they admire him. It's sort of like, he's like a capitalist, a bombastic capitalist, at least in appearance to Argentina. And compared to the trash that they had, he's like somebody they admire. It's sort of like, that's why they admire a bunch of different countries. Um, Argentina only has about 700 billion in GDP. For example, Netherlands, which how many people live in the Netherlands? Not that many, has over double the amount of GDP Argentina has.
oh wow.
So Argentina's GDP, with all of its resources, just a massive amount of resources, is extremely low. They have an enormous amount they could improve in their GDP, and doing so would tremendously obviously lower poverty, raise living standards. It would make the debt, it would tremendously lower debt to GDP. So Argentina has so much potential.
Yeah, Netherlands only has 18 million people, so that's pretty wild. I mean, they do
Yeah,
have
so they have about a third of the amount of people,
got
and a little bit more than a third, and
a lot of farming there. Yeah.
over double the GDP. And Argentina has way more farmland, way better farmland, obviously more
Oh yeah.
natural resources. Very good, smart people too. So there's no reason Argentina should be as depressed as it is.
Hopefully I think things are going to get better, and it seems like this is really having an impact everywhere and not just in Argentina. It's
In the South,
it's great to
in
watch that.
Spanish-speaking countries, there's no doubt.
Well, it looks like to me they all kind of watch each other, and of course, since it's all the same language, it's easy for them to do that. I mean, Americans really don't. I mean, Americans maybe watch what's going on in Canada and watch what's going on in Mexico, and maybe watch what's going on in England, but that's about it. Uh, they don't really watch anybody. They don't really watch anybody else.
Yeah, the only election that didn't go more liberty-wise was Uruguay elected kind of a socialist government.
Yeah.
And Uruguayans kind of are rebellious compared to Argentina. So they also had like a Macri type of guy, a very, what's the word, lukewarm president that didn't do a lot. So when you have like a right winger that's not doing a lot to actually improve the situation, it really opens the door for the left.
I think when you have a lot of corporate welfare, it opens the door for the left. In Uruguay, well, they had their elections look like in 2024, but also when it seems like to me, socialism doesn't do that badly in the countries that are still under 10 million. Like the Scandinavian countries, and Uruguay is also one of those. Maybe it's just because
you mean like doesn't do as bad.
It's not as corrupt or destructive as it is in a larger country. That seems to be the case, but yeah.
It's been bad for Portugal, for Greece. The Scandinavian countries, our friend Maggie did a good report on this, and I've read about them.
Yeah.
First of all, they had extreme laissez-faire periods. Sweden was laissez-faire really up into the 1970s, and was extremely free market until they started to do the socialism thing in the 70s. Now they started to get that way a little bit in the 50s and stuff, but they had all of their great brands from Volvo to IKEA came from their like extreme free market period.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what made them rich. They were a poor country in the 19th century. They had laissez-faire capitalism. It made them rich.
Yeah.
Then they started to do the socialism thing, and it was a complete failure in
Mm.
the 70s and 80s, a devastating failure for
Yeah.
Sweden. And then they pushed back. They pulled back from that. And no, everybody in Sweden's like, we're not going back to
Yeah.
that period where they
Yeah.
had extremely high tax rates. And so, and they didn't have any private sector growth, anything like that. So Sweden's actually more of a story of capitalism. It points out too that all the Norwegians that live in the United States, one, live longer and are much wealthier than the ones
Yeah.
in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
So it to say that they're like part of it's lifestyle. They have a good lifestyle. They have a good diet. It's sort of
Mm.
like the Mediterranean diet. They live long. I've seen
Yeah.
it. They live long time. They have wonderful diets. So
Yeah.
even though like in Portugal it's very poor, they all look great because they have wonderful diets.
Yeah.
And so, anyways,
Yeah. Let's get back to Argentina.
but
Yeah.
let's get back to Argentina. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Doug Casey had this little article, and international man, and Doug Casey's been on this show, and he just mentioned some things. Doug likes Milei, and he understands, and he ends it saying, Milei is the only game in town, which is true. But then he talks about, how Milei is flirting with failure, and it's he goes over.
Yes.
Failure won the central bank. I mean, I don't think Milei's really had an opportunity to get rid of the central bank. I mean, he can't. I mean, that's a legislative thing, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Milei didn't have had so little political support, right?
yes,
And he relied on the central right. So he couldn't lose any support from the central right. If the center right would have abandoned him, even remotely, he would have been impeached.
yes,
He would have been thrown out of office. There was articles back in March 2024, and I thought Milei was kicking ass so much, but these articles were talking about how Milei was only a few votes away from being impeached in March 2024.
yep,
And so Milei doing anything super radical that would have alienated the center right would have destroyed his presidency. And something like dollarization, closing the central bank, these things are not totally. There's a lot of people on the periphery that supported Milei or didn't totally oppose Milei that wouldn't have supported some of these more radical things. And yes, he only had 15% of the Congress and 10% of the Senate. He couldn't have
yeah,
got the stuff passed. So
mhm,
Doug Casey being like, "Oh, I'm a purist. I don't like that Milei hasn't closed the central bank and he still has the peso." And the question is, Doug, what would you do? And then he's like, "Oh, it's because Milei is like compromised and stuff." It's like, no, Milei didn't have the cards. He
yeah,
didn't have the cards to do it. And back in the day, you and I were watching this the whole time, Chris.
mhm,
And when Milei lost in the first round, the whole like super radical
yeah,
dollarization and closing the central bank right away, that went out the window. Everybody knew that went out the window because
yeah.
he just didn't have the cards to do it.
He didn't have. Yeah, he didn't have the cards in him. The people. Yeah, he's.
Yeah.
I mean,
And so,
he's got a lot much friendlier Congress now. Although yeah,
but yeah, but he has accomplished. You just look at what he's accomplished.
oh yeah,
And it's incredible, absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like this before. There was the closest probably to this were after the fall of the Soviet Union, there were some reformers in some of
mhm,
those Eastern Bloc countries that really shifted to free markets, like Georgia, Poland. There's a few of them, Slovenia, and those are the closest to a Malay. And Argentina was so socialist that it almost was like a communist country.
Yeah.
And this is really sort of like the closest we've seen this radical liberalization. And for Doug to be like, oh, I'm disappointed and stuff. Uh, I think it's a little bit obtuse. And the question is, how would he have done that, Doug?
Yeah. I don't.
How
I
how
don't
would he have
think I
done
would
it?
have done it.
If explain, you need to explain how he could have done it. And I
Yeah.
know I know that technically he could have done it. Like well, I'm not even sure he had enough dollars to do it, but he could have he could have taken all of the dollars and then traded them, or all the pesos and traded them for dollars. That was the plan. That was the dollarization plan outline that Milei was looking at, was with that Ocampo and the other Chachinowski guy. They wrote
Yeah.
a book about dollarization, and Milei was like, "This
Mhm.
is what I'm going to do." But the
Yeah.
problem with that is that was before he lost in the first round. And
Mhm.
in that proposal, they basically were going to all the deposits. We're going to switch to dollars. All the bonds that were peso denominated debt, we're going to switch to dollars. Exchange them for dollars. Here's the problem with that, Chris. In
Mhm.
2023, at the beginning of 2023, the the peso was $200, 200 pesos for $1. When Milei took office, is 1,300 pesos for $1. So uh, essentially what you're doing there is you're trading in you're giving people just a fraction of what they would have earned a year ago. You understand? So you're realizing a huge loss for them. And this was just politically infeasible. Milei would have been, as he said, imprisoned by the week,
Oh yeah.
because he would have essentially been giving people 1/5 or 1/6 the amount
Mhm.
that they would have gotten a year ago
Yeah.
with the
Mhm.
peso.
Yeah.
And people would have been like, you're like ripping people off at the weakest point. Um, and it would have been politically infeasible. So that's one reason Malay just couldn't do it. He would have been thrown out of office.
Yeah. There were.
And the central bank liability with the LELIX, everything kind of prevented him from closing the central bank
Yeah.
and
Yep.
doing all this.
Yeah, and then Doug talks about the gold and the fact that some of the gold's out of the country, and I'm sympathetic to this. I wouldn't necessarily want, I mean, I own gold myself, and I know where it is. I wouldn't necessarily trust somebody else to hold it, but
Well, you don't think the Argentinians know where it is?
it's in another country, so I don't know how easy will it be for them to get it back if they really
Well,
want it.
here's the thing. Dozens of countries do this,
Yeah,
and a lot of times they get the back. You can't really just. Doug is one of these catastrophist guys, and you can't
Doug
just
is
steal.
very much Doug is very much believer in gold, and I think he just thinks you should
And
he,
it's still the
Doug probably has
Argentines
his own
still
safe.
own the gold. They still own the gold.
Yeah,
It's still on their balance sheet. They own the gold. It's not like they gave it away. Technically, they just don't hold. Not all of it, by the way, just some of it. They don't hold. They don't hold. And he's like, they'll never get it back. Forget about it. Well, why? People, you can't just steal billions or millions of dollars. Okay, you just can't just steal that money. And there, this has been happening for years. Dozens of companies do it, and people do get their gold back.
yeah,
You can look it up. So it's not like you're necessarily out of gold. And for Doug to be like, oh, they're just giving it away. You can't steal billions of dollars of gold. You just can't do it. These are between countries. You can't do it. So is it possible they steal the gold and don't get it back? I guess so, but I
yeah,
don't think it's likely. It's still on their balance sheet. They still own the gold, and
yeah.
they're doing like a monetary metals type of thing. where they're getting interest on the gold. Maybe they're getting more
Yes, they are.
gold.
Yeah.
Maybe they're getting
Yeah,
it. Maybe they're getting their interest in gold and
that's true.
increasing the
Yeah.
gold.
These are all
I'm not
possibilities.
even sure, but it's just to be that uncharitable with it. Kind of. I mean, I am. That's one of the topics I was a little bit more sympathetic with, of course, but I still didn't. I think it was a little. I mean, it was a little dogmatic and stuff. And I must say, I don't want to be harsh on Casey, but I've been watching. He's the
Yeah.
one that got me into Argentina. It was like in 2012 or something. And he's done many podcasts
Yes.
on Argentina, talking about how much he loves it. One, because like cocaine is more accepted
Yeah.
there. He
I
loves that part of
at
it.
one point, yeah,
But
at
but
one
the
point,
second
Doug
thing
actually,
is he always talks about he likes the culture, but he always talks about always will never fail. If you watch any interview with Doug Casey, he talks about he loves how cheap it is. He's like
yeah.
he loves how impoverished the country is. Really, so his dollars, he can just live like a king. And as it recovers, he's only lived there, I think, during the Kirchner era.
Yeah.
So he's only lived there when it's been impoverished. And so his dollars go very far in Argentina. I think there's part of this where he's a little upset that they're not going quite as far. And why? Because the people are becoming wealthier, and the peso is doing better relative to the dollar. So I don't want to be a jerk to Casey, but I think they're I sense I just watching him for many years, dozens of times talk about Argentina, where he talks about this every single time, why he loves the country. I think he's a little upset that he's not living quite like the king, and the Argentinians are living a little bit better relatively now.
Well, I can say, on my most recent trip last August, the Airbnbs did get cheaper. So if property has gotten a little bit cheaper, if rentals are getting cheaper, then that's a big part of your cost of living. I can say that based on going out to restaurants, Argentina is not really that. At least, okay, Buenos Aires is not that cheap. I
When
mean,
I was
Buenos
there in
Aires is about like,
2022, it was extremely cheap.
okay, 2022. I wasn't there in 2022. Yeah, so
It was
maybe it has gotten
extremely
more
cheap. We could get an
expensive.
incredible meal for like $10.
Yeah, and
So it has gotten more expensive.
yeah,
Um, trade off to trade off to like um, a trade off to it's a trade off to the economy that they're
yeah.
dealing with right now. So I don't want to be a jerk to him. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but somebody that's listened to him like dozens of times, and that's one of the big reasons why he loves Argentina. Um, I have to think that comes into play too.
Yep.
So yeah, but the gold, I don't know. People can judge for themselves. Was it wise? Was it not? Um, I think it could go both ways. I don't think it's nearly as catastrophic as he claims.
Well, Doug even went so far as several years ago. I think he was saying that the most likely libertarian revolution would be in Argentina. So that's
And they're having it.
that's another good thing. He predicted this. So I think Doug is good at forecasting. Yeah, a lot of these people they do look for places that are cheap, and he realizes and the other thing too is Andrew Henderson, who's nomad capitalist, who's a lot of ways like a younger version of Doug Casey. He is, he gives away a little bit of advice. He'll put out 10 or 15-minute videos now and then, and he's doing all kinds of videos about Argentina. And I can only assume it's because he's getting lots of requests. I think maybe Doug just likes to be at a place where nobody else has discovered it, and now he realizes that other people like Doug Casey are discovering Argentina, and because I think a lot more people are paying attention to him now, and maybe just
Well, he could have
it's when you're ahead of the curve.
if he wanted to, he could have written a very positive article.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like
and
if he could have talked about all the deregulations
oh
going
yeah,
on. He could have talked about how Milei is lowering taxes, how Milei has the first budget surplus. I mean, he complimented Macri, and
Yeah,
Milei is 1,000 times better than Macri.
yeah, and
So he could have written a very positive article. I think. I think. I just. I. Who knows? I think he. I think. I think he. Yeah. Maybe to say he. Oh, I'm so disappointed in Milei. That people should read the article and you see what he's talking about. But yeah.
it was also reprinted on LouRockwell.com. Here's another thing, and he says this for everybody. He just says default on the debt. I don't know. That would be a public relations disaster for Argentina, and they've already defaulted on the debt so many times. So I think Milei is very
Yeah.
conscious. They don't. They
I'll
want to
tell
pay
you,
the debt back so they can
I'll,
borrow in the future.
I'll tell you a behind the scenes story. I don't think Tom would mind. Is I brought this up for my Tom Woods interview. I was like, Tom,
Yes.
some people say they should default on the debt, and Tom Woods was like, that's insane. That's not even worth talking about. And then Doug Bob Murphy comes out in his video and said they should have defaulted on the debt. And I'm like, Bob, they have. I love Bob Murphy, and he gave a very accurate description of what was going on. It was good. So at least I didn't watch the second one. I watched the first video he did on Argentina. It was extremely accurate. I was very impressed by him. He got the Lelex thing. He showed why the money supply was increasing. It wasn't really Malay's fault at all. And Milei stopped that. But he was like, they should just default on the debt. He's like, and this is just when people, every country has their own history, economic history, and you really need to study those countries. Argentina has defaulted on the debt 9 times.
Yep.
Argentina's defaults have been disastrous, absolutely disastrous, and have tremendously weakened the country. I mean, in 2021, and they're people are afraid of them too, because in 2021 they defaulted on the debt, and it was just a horrendous disaster. They had 5 presidents in 1 week, and they gave people this crap currency instead of real currency that wasn't worth anything. It was a tremendous disaster in their economy. You ask pretty much any Argentinian, that it never recovered from that. And they've had many defaults. We're not dealing with Switzerland here. We're dealing with a country that, for example, if Switzerland had a stupid government that did some stupid stuff and people bought some dumb debt, and Switzerland defaulted on that debt, Switzerland would probably be fine because they have a long track record. And it probably wouldn't destroy their economy. But Argentina is not like that. Argentina has done it over and over again. And it is demonstrably, there's studies on this, just harm their economy tremendously. And one of the reasons is it makes it, nobody trusts the government. Nobody trusts the economy. So nobody will invest in the country. And that includes even government things like infrastructure.
Yes.
But for capital, it leads to capital flight. So people just run from the country. And it leads to runs on the dollar. It leads to runs on the bank. It's a complete disaster. And Bob Murphy basically, during like this tremendous economic crisis that they had, like one of the worst in the world, incredibly bad, the country is already suffering tremendously. And this debt was coming due mostly in 2025, 2026. And for him to suggest they default on it would have ruined Milei's presidency. It would have slowed the economic recovery tremendously, and it was already in a tremendous recession. And they defaulted 9 times on the debt. And the only times they've ever ran a budget surplus was after the defaults. So let's say Milei starts running a budget surplus. The people would be like, "Oh, he's just doing that because they defaulted on the debt." Nobody would trust the country, and Milei would just be one of the other many presidents that defaulted on the debt, and he wouldn't have been any different. And by not doing it, now their country has really got the opportunity to get enormous amounts of investment from outside for private sector investment. And so to say that, I mean, I'm really shocked that Doug would say that when he should know the difference. He should know he should know the history of Argentina.
Yeah,
it's sort of sort of disappointing that he can't make that analysis about it. And I admire Doug. I like Doug. I'm just being brutally honest here.
Well, Doug is very well traveled, and and then he brings up the Fs that they bought, the F-16s, which I acquired 24 used F-16s from Denmark. I mean, I don't, as you pointed out, they hardly had any military, so I don't know exactly what they're going to do with the F-16s, but
yeah,
it does create some things in case something does happen. You do have them in case something happens, and
yeah. So, well, with this, their military after the return to democracy,
yeah,
they basically put zero investment in their military for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Got like no new equipment, especially airplanes. So this is part of Milei's coalition. So when he lost in the first round, he made deals with Louis Petri, who was Bullrich's vice president.
VP candidate, yes.
And he made deals with Bullrich. And the deal with Bullrich is she would become security minister. And she would have power to do a lot of her agenda on security. And the deal with Petri is he would make him defense minister. And he would be able to do things like the NATO thing and all that. Like he would have a lot of power to do what he wanted to do with defense. And this got the center right on his side. He wasn't, if you watched during the campaign, this wasn't a huge emphasis for Milei.
Yep.
And so the point is that side of people wanted all this. And to say that Doug is like, oh, they don't have any money, they're broke. Well, Milei's been running a budget surplus. And this spending is not even a fraction of what he's cut.
Oh, yeah.
So, these, they don't talk about any offensive capability. It's all about deterrence for Argentina. They're not talking about war. They say they can cover their country now, their entire country with these F-16s in case there's an invasion or something.
Yeah.
They don't talk about any sort of offensive capability, which Doug is like, oh, because they want to go to World War III. That's not what they're talking about. And Milei is hardcore anti-war, especially for Argentina.
Yeah.
He says that there's no use for war. And he says that Argentina wants Argentina to be there in South America. They don't have any problem with their neighbors. And he wants to be there in South America and be a protagonist trader and try to help stop international conflicts.
Yeah.
And this it's not for offensive capability.
Yeah.
It's specifically for deterrence. And do I love that? Like, would I have bought the F-16s? No, because I don't think Argentina is really I don't think Argentina is really threatened. But this is sort of the coalition he came in with, and relative to the amount that he's cutting and wants to cut, that he still has like 7% of GDP who wants to cut it. Yeah, this is not really a lot. Their
Yeah.
military is still small relative to world standards. It's still
Mhm.
small GDP wise relative to world standards. They're sort of just getting it up to regional standards.
Yeah, well, and also, although they're not really speaking, Vigerel was also very, pro-military.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
her father was in the war for the Malvinas.
Yeah, and she was. People accused her of liking the dictatorship. She
They
in,
Our country
interviewed.
has 800 to 900, by the way, F-16s. Yep.
We have 800 to 900 of them.
Yeah, the
They have
U.S.
like how many did they buy? Just a few,
and
12 or
Argentina just
something.
got like 16. Yeah, so
Yeah. So, um, and by the way, I mean they're with their old planes. They
yeah.
tore up the British. They sunk a bunch of during the Malvina Wars. They sunk three of their ships, even though the British won that war pretty handily. They sunk three of
Mhm.
their ships.
Oh,
So it to with good air power, it's really hard to do an invasion. Like I don't think that would ever happen, but like in case it did. So like with aircraft carriers and etc. So it is what it is. I like to. I don't know. I mean, Malay cut the spending of the federal government from like 22% of GDP to I think it's 15% now.
hmm.
Why didn't he mention at least put that
Yeah,
in and that's with the
yeah.
F-16s? Why didn't he add that to the article? Why wasn't
Oh,
it a
it's
more nuanced article?
24 used F-16s from Denmark. Yeah, I don't know. I think he was just trying to go negative here, but which seems to be so much the way. Maybe libertarians have just gotten so used to being negative about anybody in government that they just can't get out of the habit. And then he finally brings up the FX controls, foreign exchange controls, which he's pretty much allowed people to do business in any currency. So I don't see how that really applies at all. I don't know what kind of currency exchange controls there still are right now.
They took them off, which
Yeah.
I don't understand. There's one that's on that he still has on, and that is dividends. But if you invest in Argentina, you can get the dividends.
Mm.
But the problem is they didn't do this for like they've had these on essentially since 2010. Christina put them on all the FX controls, not allowing people to get their dividends
Mm-hmm.
and out of the country, and they have like $10 billion in dividends.
Yeah.
So that would be a disaster. All of the cash running out. Now I'm sure that at some point in time, Malay wants to allow that money to leave, but all the other currency controls he exited. So I mean, this is something that's been on since 2011, I believe, and was kind of a great a great a great accomplishment, an incredible accomplishment that people didn't think it would happen so quickly. By
Mm-hmm.
the way, a lot of the problems they had in the last few months wouldn't have happened probably so much with the currency controls on,
Yeah.
and if the peso wasn't floating like it
Mhm.
is.
Yeah. So what do you think is what can you tell me about this labor reform that he's been talking about? Because that's one thing I still don't quite understand yet. It seems like he's going to try to. Apparently, a lot of people still work in what's considered the informal economy and aren't even on the books, so to speak. And he's going to try to bring everybody back into the formal economy.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a few things that go hand in hand with that. But let's talk about labor first. Um, the 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 government they had a very Marxist, progressive, populist government that was always for the worker, and So they unionized. They made the unions a fourth branch of government in
Was that just
Argentina.
government unions or all unions?
Unions, all unions,
Okay.
and they essentially made them a fourth branch of government. And the unions are extraordinarily strong in Argentina. And the unions have sort of they have national agreements, and these are agreements that sort of set minimum wages, make the rules for employers extremely difficult, amount, um, especially for a poor country, and they 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 just make it uncompetitive, and it really makes more than even Buenos Aires. It really makes the poorer areas of the countries really uncompetitive because these are like national agreements. So it's sort of like a really high national minimum wage. That might
Yeah.
not that might not affect Washington D.C. or Silicon Valley that much, but that's going to destroy Mississippi, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened. That's what happens in Argentina, where these poor provinces like Chaco and Santiago del Estero and Formosa,
Yes.
they are just destroyed by these agreements because it's like having a minimum wage, a Switzerland minimum wage in Bolivia,
Yeah.
where they just cannot have much. They can't really have any private sector competitiveness, and that's why in Formosa and some of these places they have 70% government workers, and they rely on the federal government or the central government.
Yeah.
So this allows him to tremendously deregulate those those agreements. And I'll there's another factor, and the litigation. The first time we were on, we discussed this, where they sue. They're so the laws are so anti-employer, pro-worker, that employees can sue the employers, and they always win,
Yeah.
like always. And it makes hiring anybody like a huge risk.
Mhm.
And so Milei wants to cut down on all the litigation that's just destroying the employment of the country. So this goes hand in hand with tax reform, and they need to be both be together. The reason why is Argentina, the social security contributions that employers have to pay is like 34%. For example, they in the United States they're only 14%. In
Yeah.
Chile they're only 7%. So employers, for each employer, has to pay 34% social security contributions.
That's a lot. Yes.
It's a lot, and their social security is completely broke. Completely broke. You remember the Congress passing laws
Oh yeah.
against Malay's veto. That was because they passed these bills to have the social security contributions coming out of the taxes, the general taxes, the budget of the government, not the social security budget, the trust fund or whatever, the budget of the government. So they pay 34% in contributions, and they can't cover the pensions
Yep.
because the government stole from it and spent it all. Yet the Congress is like, oh, this is the Peronists were just trying to hurt Milei, and they were like, nope, that's not enough. We need to spend it from the budget of the government. We need to have the government spending it out of the general tax fund or the general budget. Ridiculous. So Milei needs to fix this as well, improve the situation, and that goes hand in hand
Yeah.
with making the labor market, because Argentina is a tax hell. Argentina has 165 taxes,
Yep.
extremely high tax pressure.
Mm.
And this goes hand in hand with the labor reform, deregulating the labor market, making it so you can hire and fire much more easily. Where I believe that the amount you have to pay to fire somebody is much lower,
Yep.
because that'll make it more easy to hire, because they have 50% of the economy is in the informal sector.
Yep.
So only I can't remember, Chris, if 3 to 7 million are in the private, formerly employed by the private sector.
Yeah, and
It's really low. It's something like that. It's extreme low. It's unbelievably low. And so that they're not getting any taxes from these people.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
And also with the Social Security contributions, the Kirchnerists, the populist, made it so you didn't have to contribute to get the pension. This is what bankrupted it. One of the things that bankrupted it. So
yeah.
let's say your husband works, but you are a stay-at-home mother and you never work.
Mhm.
You get just as much pension, or at least some. You get as he gets. So you get even though you never contributed a thing, you get a pension. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's that is of course I don't know what the exact Social Security rules are, but I mean that eventually gets to a point where the younger generations are realizing I'm never going to get Social Security, so they just want to get rid of it. But it's and when you have all these people in the informal economy, as you pointed out, they're not paying taxes.
They're
If
not getting it either. Yeah, well,
come back into the formal economy, then this all goes back into the tax base, and he'll have even more bigger budget surpluses to pay off the debts.
exactly. He'll be able to lower the rate, but have
Yeah,
more whatever, like but more people will be paying or whatever. So,
yeah,
and he'll be able to cut so much more taxes that way. And people were paying it anyways with the inflation. Inflation's a tax,
yes, it
so it
is.
wasn't like people weren't paying the tax.
Is the country pretty litigious like America is? I mean,
Way more.
well, for example, you get things like you forgot to shovel your sidewalk in there, and I slipped on the ice. I mean, is it stupid stuff like that, or I put a cup of coffee on my car seat and burned myself? I mean, has it gotten to that level down there or not?
Well, the stuff that I know about is basically anybody that quits a job,
Okay,
they sue the employer and they win. They say the employer wronged them in some way. That's why they had to quit. They had bad working conditions, and that's why they
yeah,
had to quit. This happened to people I know. Everybody, like any employer, has to deal with this. They get sued, they lose. The people just sue them. So it
that's yeah,
really, yeah, they come up with some BS reason, and they always win. And so
that's a
this is
problem.
that's what I'm saying. It's way more litigious, because a lot of people get fired or quit their jobs in the United States and don't sue the employer,
Yeah,
which in Argentina, that's just what happens. It
yeah,
just
it's
always happens.
so
And the
yeah,
incentives make it. If it would you do it too if you were basically guaranteed to win, even if it
I
wasn't right? Right?
there's some
If the laws were that way, and that's why we discussed, like, lawyers would only there was only a few people that
yeah,
could get rich. There was no way to make money in Argentina unless you were part of this corrupt system, unless you were a politician, unless
yeah,
you were a lawyer that made money from all these stupid lawsuits.
or unless you're an accountant, as you pointed
Like
out.
accountants too, yeah, and
Yeah, yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah, I just wondered, I was
because it's
you
so
mentioned
the
that,
tax laws are so bad, accountants probably
yeah,
made less than the rest of them, but but that it's so hard to run a business, and you need somebody like that to help
oh
you
yeah,
guide through it.
yeah. I mean, here in America, it's. I mean, yeah, we don't have really have people suing their employers, but we have those other silly kind of lawsuits where like I said, I slipped on ice, or I burnt. I put the coffee between my legs in the car and got burned and stuff like that. It's just. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, some of those
It's a different
lawsuits
kind
though
of
are
lawsuit. Yeah,
some of those lawsuits aren't the worst. Like though, there are really stupid ones, but some
yeah,
of the lawsuits do sort of regulate. That's how you can regulate or
yeah,
contracts, right? If you,
yeah, yeah.
for example,
Lawsuits.
for
Yeah,
example, if your landlord is supposed to clean off the ice
yeah,
on
yeah.
the sidewalk, but never does.
Well, I'm thinking more like something like you're just a pedestrian walking by the building. You don't even
Right, right, right.
that
But
kind of
but
thing. Not your
but there
landlord. Yeah.
but some of the lawsuits aren't necessarily. It's sort of a way to make enforce contracts.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. I definitely
there's really bad ones. There's stupid ones. The law sort of, you're right though, because it's not a loser pays or anything like that. So in the United States, so you the incentives do cause people to do more of these stupid lawsuits. But some of the lawsuits are not bad. Like help govern contracts and enforce
yeah,
contracts.
yeah. You got to govern
So it's a
contracts.
little bit. It's a little bit of both. And you need to have a little bit of both. But yeah, there's some absolutely ridiculous. There's numerous just ridiculous lawsuits, and those need to be cut down, and we would have
Yeah.
better economic growth, better business environment, more. But to be fair, Chris, our labor laws are like the best in the world. The at will employment, we have
Mhm.
the US secret weapon really is the labor laws. I'm sure there's a lot to improve upon, but they are, compared to most of these countries. I have a friend for example, in New Zealand. This is a story. This is just like Argentina, though. This is a
Yeah.
similar thing, but this is he was an executive in the United States, but he worked for a New Zealand company, and they hired somebody, and the first day on the job to do training, and the first day of the job they said, "We can't do that. I'm not going to do any training. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it." And it took them many months to fire her because the
Yeah.
labor laws make it so hard to fire people. And that's the same thing in Argentina. So hard to fire anybody to
Yeah. And
possible. So that's the big thing. That's what Malay's trying to allow it to happen, to be able to fire employees, right?
yeah.
Be able
And,
to fire bad employees. And this is what these labor laws don't like. They don't make any the unions don't make any distinguishing between a good employer and a bad employer.
yeah.
So and like they're the crazy like the unions are so powerful,
Yeah.
and their agreements like cover all, like all the industry. Basically all the industry is governed by these. And
Yeah.
Argentina is doing very well, for example, and their exports are killing it in a lot of areas, and they have an energy surplus now. They never did. They have a lot of their farm exports are doing very well. Their mining exports are like setting records, which goes to show that probably the currency isn't so uh, undervalued as people say it is,
Yeah.
or overvalued. Excuse me, as people say
Yeah.
it is. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, as you point out with the labor law, you got to be able to fire the employee who gets violent or the employee who
Well,
is
so if you
stealing
get
stuff.
violent, you could probably fire. But if you're just a lazy bum
Yeah,
and you don't work, it's really hard to fire. And my point is the one area where Argentina isn't just dominating, or isn't is the industry because of these laws. So the industry is in, and the Argentina protected. Sort of part of the game with this, Chris, is the government would protect these industries. I mean, the Peronists would basically they would import. You'd have to import things, not like disassembled, and then they would just, instead of importing them assembled, you'd have to import them disassembled, and they would make them assemble them in Argentina. So imagine the extra cost that caused. That's why so many things are so expensive in Argentina, like relative to everywhere else. Things that cost like $1,000 in Chile cost like $4,000 in
Oh wow.
Argentina. Yeah, so many, all the electronics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's because of so that the government made these businesses extremely uncompetitive, but then protected them
Yeah.
with protective tariffs and subsidies and etc.
It's
So
hard
it
to
was
buy.
it was just an awful system, and the people who paid were the consumers. But in return, those businessmen were supported the Peronists, and the labor unions supported the Peronists, and everybody else got left behind, and the welfare people supported the Peronists. So that was their coalition that governed them so many years. And really, only after the huge debacle, well, it's a little bit nuanced, but kind of goes back and forth. But the Kirchnerists just caused so much pain and suffering to the average person that
Yes.
allowed somebody like Milei to get elected, and it broke up this coalition.
Yeah, it broke up the coalition. It's yeah, and it's generally hard to get a lot of electronic stuff in a lot of South American countries. It's because I guess because it's so far away, they forget. And are there still some export taxes? Is that right or not? Uh,
Yeah, so that's another thing. Argentina is one of the only countries in the world that has export taxes.
yeah,
Not just
those,
import taxes, export taxes.
yeah, and those seem like real. I think those are taxes that really got to go. I mean, the
They
fact is,
do.
people just aren't going to produce stuff to export, is what they're going to do.
Well,
You know,
here's the deal. Like I said, the government they were spending so much money on everything, Chris, and they were printing money. That just spending so much money that they just started to extort, expropriate anybody that made any productive sector tremendously. And what's Argentina's like incredible, very productive sector is their agriculture and their mining. So the Peronist, the greedy Peronist, with all their crazy spending, started to just expropriate these people. Oh, you're gonna have to pay withholding taxes if you want to export. If you want to make any money, you're gonna have to pay 25% or more to the government. Insane. It's absolutely insane. So yeah, Malay just like a week or two ago lowered these by like $2 billion a year, and he's lowered them multiple times. I can't remember if he got rid of them entirely for a little while, but he's been lowering them permanently, at least at least from his administration. So and as like I said, the tax situation gets, he's going to get rid of them. That's his goal. But
yeah,
I listened to a Caputo interview. That's his economics minister,
yes,
and he's like, we can't like get the lowest taxes in the world right away, because we can't. That would mean that we would have a budget deficit,
okay, yeah,
and excuse me, that would mean we have a budget deficit. And what do you do? What can you do with a budget deficit? You have to print money.
Yeah.
So all the problems that they've had, so they do, the surplus is extremely important. And sorry, Doug, you know they can't default. That would be a disaster.
And the budget surplus is good public relations. Yeah, it's a lot of things. Yeah, but Rome wasn't built in a day, and you can't tear down Rome in a day either. Uh,
Yeah, it wasn't built in a day.
but
Yeah,
the most important thing is he's getting the message out there. He has 70% approval of Argentines under 30, and I've heard it's even or even heard now 18 to 25, it's 77% or something like that. It's just
his approval ratings have been increasing.
the kids love him, and they're going to go learn this stuff. They're going to run for office. They're going to do all this stuff. It's If you want to change your society, you've got to go after the youth. There's no doubt about that, and he's done it. It's just it's amazing
I
what this
agree.
guy has done. I mean,
I agree. That's absolutely true, and that's why I think that it's pretty sustained. And in explaining it in this way, hope where the kids have a hope that they can have a
yeah,
career and make money, and actually, their children or whatever will do better, is something that's tremendous, and that really reached the kids because they had no hope. It's easy, our kids. It's easy for them to be leftists because they can get a job. I mean, well, we have all our problems, but you know, we have our problems with debt and all that stuff, but housing and all that. But they can still get a job and stuff, and maybe have a future. In Argentina, they just didn't have a future.
yeah. But I really do think though that this is because of Javier Milei, because of his
There's no
personality, how
doubt.
he communicates. If he'd been 10 or 15 years older, I don't think he could have appealed to the kids. I think he's about the maximum age where you could make that kind of appeal to the young voters. And that is, and the thing about young voters is usually you don't have a lot of money to give you your campaigns, but they've got time and they've got energy and they will go out, they'll put stuff on YouTube, they'll put stuff on TikTok. And that's what they did. He had this giant army of young Argentines who were just, pounding the pavement for him or pounding the internet for him.
Exactly. And we talk about him losing in September.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that, but
Yeah,
I'm sure your listeners probably do know that he
the,
lost in September.
yeah, the Buenos Aires provincial elections.
Right.
Yes, that
And
was the provincial elections
before
in Buenos
that,
Aires.
before that, I'm sure you followed our Signal chat. I was talking about this.
Yeah.
Before that election, his campaign was really, it didn't look like his 2023 campaign. It didn't have all the youth excitement. It was much more of a top-down campaign. And it really was not that exciting. Milei got so, not Milei, but the people he put in charge of the campaign got so conservative.
Yeah.
And that there was all of these kids. They were tweeting, with the hashtags. Milei, listen to us. Milei, listen to us. Listen to us. Listen to us, because they were so disappointed with the campaign. And once he lost that campaign, Milei did a meeting and he got everybody together and they actually dissected. They took some hard lessons from that campaign, and he fired a bunch and demoted a bunch of people. Arguably his sister. Like, she was still on the campaign, but she wasn't the big shot anymore. It was Santiago Caputo, who represents the youth.
Yeah.
You know who he is. He represents the youth in Argentina. And they totally, yeah, he's like the outsider, he's like the outsider, kind of. He's actually not even technically in Milei's government at all. He's just a special advisor to Milei. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
But the campaign changed like overnight, and it was incredible. And I'm sure you watched it, Chris. It was Milei would go to those cities and have those amazing rallies. Mm-hmm. It was really fun to watch, and that's why I don't generally bet. I'm not a gambler at all, besides like trading or whatever. But
Yeah.
like uh like Milei, should have bet that he was going to win the election because it was the campaign changed so much. It was like I don't see how he could lose after all this energy. That it was a better campaign in my opinion than his 2023 campaign after he lost that election. It was more desperate. Milei campaigned like a madman. So
Yeah.
and the young people, Gordo Dan and all the young people were just energized. They just they got involved in the campaign. The grassroots just got super involved, and that's what kind of project. But that this just goes back to the young people, the grassroots, the people with the energy, the people that can utilize the social media. That's where Milei just dominated. Like was 1,000,000% better than his opponents, Massa,
Yeah.
Bullrich. Like he was 1,000 times better on Instagram, on X, on TikTok. Way more exciting. You know how Malay's like retweeted me 50 times. He's always retweeting people that say crazy. Like sometimes he won't say the crazy stuff, but he'll retweet you if you say a crazy thing, That's fun.
Yeah, you're his favorite American, I think.
Well,
Of course,
yeah,
I don't know if he actually runs that Twitter account, but yeah.
I think he does. I
Yeah.
think he does. He might have some other people on it, but I've noticed that when he gives it like live speeches, he never retweets anything.
Yeah.
So he at least looks at it. But I think he actually does it. For a long time, people said that, yeah, I'm the only one that runs the Twitter. And pretty much all he does is, most of what he does is just retweet. And he makes some, he makes some. So I think he could do it, So I think, yeah, he definitely knows who I am.
Yeah, he's really, he's really done. Yeah, it's just, of course and I know he likes Bob Murphy's chaos theory, and the one American economist he always mentions the most is Israel Kirzner, who is 95 and still alive and a rabbi.
Wow. Yeah, he's
I've been
old.
saying this to Milei. Get a chance to meet Israel Kirzner while he's still alive.
Yeah,
I met Kirzner myself years ago. Nice guy,
He's at NYU, right? NYU.
He was at NYU for a long time. He got his
Yeah.
PhD under Ludwig von Mises. I think he's pretty retired now, but he was, really. I met him in a seminar at the Foundation for Economic Education. He was
That's
always
cool. I watched some of his lectures. They are really interesting.
yeah, it's
very interesting. You can kind of get his whole like ideology in a few of his lectures that are interesting. He goes off of Menger, and it's very good. Yeah.
Milei has such a vast
yeah, but like Milei loves Rothbard. His dog is named after Murray. I think Murray would actually like Milei much more than like a Hoppy and stuff, because Murray was much more of a reasonable. He was a political guy, meaning he actually understood politics, and he would actually, like for example, he would actually go support people, like lesser two evils type of stuff, sometimes. And he would have liked Milei, and even Milei's like, I think he would have liked Milei. And Walter Block, who nobody likes him anymore, but
I
still like him. There's some things that whatever, but let's not get into it. But like,
yeah,
he says Murray Rothbard would love Milei, and I do believe that, just knowing what I know about Murray. And even Bob Murphy seems to is reasonable about Milei and seems to like Milei. So
you have some of these purists, and I think some Americans.
Some of it's envy. I think some of it's envy. Some of it, they don't like certain of Milei's opinions.
Yeah, and some of it might just be, I think some libertarians are just kind of saying, well, it sounds like it's too good to be true, so it probably is. And I think some of them might be. I'll admit it, Scott. I'll admit it. I like talking about Javier Milei, but I say to myself too, I want to be more like Javier Milei. I mean, I would love to be able to galvanize an audience the way he does. I mean, it's really amazing. Just watching this man go out there and motivate people and get them to, and get them to follow his lead. And I think he's very sincere and very, I'm sure he'd be a great guy to hang out with, or
Yeah,
anybody.
absolutely. I'm pretty sure he is. Although Malay's a workaholic,
Yeah,
but a crazy workaholic. I don't.
yeah,
That's another thing. The guy like is way so effective. If you just list his accomplishments, I did on my X. I should pin it on my X. And that's just a limited list. It's just
yeah,
incredible. But a lot
yeah,
of it is it's in Spanish, and they can't really follow it or understand what's going on.
yeah. That's
And
the
so,
only
like
thing.
Safedine, for example, we've discussed him last time.
Yeah,
This is just so wrong. He's just like mind-boggling wrong with his facts.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like, where did you how these facts are just so off. Like they're so easily disproven. Where did you get these facts?
I
How
don't
do you
know.
know nothing about the situation?
I
And,
think,
and I think part of that, like, you know, I kind of sense with him, he's just, when you get so angry,
yeah,
you can't even, you can't
yeah,
even make rational arguments. It's like,
yeah. I
that's
didn't.
kind of what I get with Safedine. But also, like, he doesn't speak Spanish and he doesn't know where to look.
Yeah, yeah,
And a lot of these people, and there's these guys that just hate him. There's that one guy from Paraguay that I'm not gonna that just
yeah, yeah,
hates him, and like for example, he's got these currency controls on, and
yeah,
Malay
yeah,
gets rid of him. Oh, he doesn't give him credit. All these
yeah,
things, Malay actually improves all these things. Oh, I just hate and then
yeah.
and I think a lot of it comes down to he's in Paraguay and he probably doesn't like Argentinians.
Well, maybe
Like
so. Yeah,
there's a
you're
lot
saying,
of rivalry within those countries, and
but
that's probably part of it. But I bet you that's a big part of it.
yeah, but the
And,
fact that he's Paraguayan, he does know the language, so that's one thing. But I mean,
but
I watched
he's
your debate. Your debate with Jeremiah Harding was a disaster because it was just because it was just you beating him down, and that Senate reform debate was just a beat down too. I'd love to see a good debate about Milei. I've certainly
I
said,
think he could do a little bit better now.
yeah,
Like people could come up with more now,
yeah,
but uh, not really. Like Safedine couldn't debate. You
yeah,
know, Safedine was like, "Oh, he's not accounting for the interest payments and
yeah,
his budget surplus." No, oh no, it's published right here. It's published right here every month. It is.
yeah,
Well, he's increasing the money supply. No, he's not increasing the money supply. He hasn't been. What he inherited a liability that was doubling the money supply every month. Oh, there's a like it's just everything that he said. Oh, he's increasing the debt. Nope. Overall net debt is
yeah,
decreased by $40 billion.
yeah,
Actually, $50 billion I saw. So no, everything he says is like so easily debunked, and
yeah,
so they can't really debate. I mean, they could debate what Doug Casey said. Oh, we should have got rid of
yeah,
the peso in the central bank, and then you just so how is he going to do that? Just ask him how is he going to do? How could he do that politically?
yeah.
They don't have an answer.
I don't think
So,
they.
like I've been like I'm somebody that that could very easily if Malay does something that I don't like. The one thing is the what is the trade
Yeah,
OCED or whatever it's called. I was a little bit nervous about him attempting to enter that because they're like, oh, you can't cut your taxes so much. You can't be like a tax cutter or cheater or whatever. And they're like, we're not going to listen to them on that. That's what they
mhm,
said. Like, the International Trade Organization, whatever.
yeah,
And so that's something that I would little watch out for. But even on climate change, I just watched an interview with their mining expert guy or their chief mining minister, vice minister, and they're like, we don't care at all about emissions.
yeah. Yeah, the whole
We don't care about emissions. We're only 5%. He's like, we're only 5%. We're less than less than 0.5% of the whole emissions of the whole planet.
I,
We're like less than 0.5%. We don't have any, so we're not going to worry about. We're a poor country, or like we don't worry about it.
yeah,
And so Malay believes it's a hoax.
yeah,
Famously.
it's all
So, like on
collapsing.
a lot of this globalist stuff, they're just totally do not care.
Yeah,
It's pretty refreshing.
I,
So
I,
overall, I've been like, I could find maybe a few things to criticize Malay, but like they're pretty minor things, and I can also see his side of the argument, and he basically says that like I'm not gonna like, you know, I'm not gonna listen to them when they were like they went into um yeah
yeah,
basically this international sort of group they said we can do what we want to do.
well, I'm realizing too how sometimes the way the U.S. and some of these other powerful countries screw around with these smaller countries, and I think he's mindful of that. I maybe maybe if the U.S. was weaker, maybe there's some things he'd like to do. It's hard to say. I mean, if there's one thing I would change about all this, I just wish Mondino was still in his cabinet, but I think he's done a pretty great job, and it's pretty, and most importantly, I think he's really changing the culture of the country, and it's going to be fixed for good. So yeah,
The
uh,
new guy though in his that is this chancellor is a libertarian.
oh yeah, that's good to know. Yeah,
Yeah, he's a pretty hardcore like libertarian guy.
and
Pablo Quirno, he was like his
yeah,
minister of finance or something, and he's pretty like from what I've seen, he's pretty hardcore libertarian. Um,
yeah,
so I think that's at least really more like Mondino. And
yeah,
yeah, I love Mondino. I loved her so much. So I wish she could be chancellor, and I
yeah,
wish he could do something in his administration. I think he sort of maybe owes her that.
yeah.
What he she did. I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and
But Jorge Truco's like he's got to get rid of her if he does that.
yeah,
But
well, you don't have much time left, and that's cool. One thing I should report also, we're recording this on the 14th of December. It looks like Cost kicked ass in Chile today, so that's good news.
yeah,
Milei will probably go to his inauguration, and Milei was behind Johannes
absolutely.
Kaiser, but when it got down to two, he got behind Cost. So, maybe South
He
America
did
is
good.
going back in more.
Kaiser did well too, though. Kaiser did
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
I mean, he got like 14%. I mean,
even though she's not in the cabinet, I'd love to have Dina Mondino. Also, any English-speaking people in the Chamber of Deputies of the Senate, you're welcome too. I'd love to have you on here. Where can we find you out there, Scott? Just it.
yeah, you can find me. I've written for AIER, so
Yep.
you can look me up, Skot Sheller. There, I'm hoping to write some more for them.
Yeah.
Also, I'm on X as Banger Shell 11 or Shell
Yes.
Banger. I don't know, Chris. Should I go with my name, Scott Sheller? I probably
Yeah.
should at some point.
You're
Shell
the only
Banger was my
person who
nickname in
spells it with.
college. It was my
You're the only
nickname in
person who
college.
spells Scott with a K. So it's.
It's a little bit more distinctive, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you can check me out at Banger Shell 11.
Yes.
That
Yeah. And
that's where I've been retweeted by Malay so many times. Hopefully, I'll get back in the groove. He's done it some lately, but not as much as he was.
yeah, he's
But
he's really.
but he's done it some. So, and he actually likes some of my posts too. It's cute.
Yeah, he likes him. Yeah,
Yeah, he'll like it.
It's really been a wild year, and this is you every other time you've been here at least 2 hours. It's only going to be about an hour and 20 minutes, but I've loved having you back. It's been great.
Yeah, no, usually it's like 3 hours.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
over 2 hours. This is
So
the
thank
shortest
you very
one.
much, Scott Scheller. I'm please like the show, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, go buy my novel Escape from the Village, check out my Substack, and people are giving me money to buy me a coffee. Thank you so much, Scott. It's been a great day and we're 11 days from Christmas, so Feliz Navidad.
And Viva la Libertad, carajo!
Yes, I'm Chris Baker. We're out. Buy my novel, Escape from the Village, from major booksellers online. Go to escapevillage.com. Subscribe to the Substack. Go to fountainheadforum.substack.com. Support the forum. Go to buymeacoffee.com/fountainheadforum. Thank you.